say, yeah, she did have some mental instabilities. And I couldn't really work with her past one session where we did consultation. And then I provided her with some anger management tools and breathing techniques because I am not a licensed mental health practitioner. So I couldn't work with her
Mm-hmm.
after I discovered that there were some deep not only emotional wounds, but there was some mental instability there. And I told her this, and then I recommended her to work with other people. I actually referred her to a few people. But I mean, obviously she never, you know, went through with it. So I would have to
Yeah.
say, yeah, absolutely. There was some mental instability for sure.
Yeah. So let's go back to April 16th of 2022. And it was baffling to me, when I did my research, just gathering my notes for tonight, I was like, there go that month and year again, April 2022, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So on that date, that's when the suitcase was found with the Las Vegas themed design, and it was found abandoned in Washington County, Indiana. And unfortunately, inside was the lifeless body of a young boy. So for months, authorities had no leads, right? There were no missing child reports, no witnesses, nothing. But it wasn't until October of 2022 that the police identified, the victim as 5-year-old Cairo Jordan. And of course, the primary suspect was his own mother,
Mm.
Dejaune Anderson. But then things began to take a disturbing turn as a lot of the Facebook posts were uncovered during the investigation. They found that something far more sinister was at play. And I'm glad that we're speaking on this particular topic and on this particular person, because as I was watching several of the different news clippings and broadcasts, there was a
Mhm.
question that was asked to the great grandmother of Cairo. And the news reporter asked, if she knew that, Dejaune Anderson, if she was involved in any type of spiritual practices or anything like that. And the great great grandmother was like, I'm old. I don't know what these young people are doing nowadays, but something definitely wasn't right. And as I'm watching the different news clippings and listening to a lot of the other YouTubers that, they had did their own story on this particular case, that was the missing piece, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were able to, tell their stories based on what was publicly already put out there. But we know behind the scenes what community that she was a part of. And
Right.
I'll say allegedly, but how being a part of that community and taking part in a lot of the different spiritual practices played a hand into this whole sad, sad, and unfortunate situation.
Hmm.
So I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah. No. I recently did a live on Facebook talking about the importance of mental wellness before you delve into magic and dealing with, anything that has to do with working with other entities and, deep spiritual practices. And, I remember when I noticed that Dejaune was kind of spiraling. Um, she was posting on Facebook and she started talking about how she was, a healer and she had healed herself of all of these things and excuse me, and how she heals other people. And how she had nothing more to heal because she had healed like all of her wounds and she had, done all of this stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting because, we just had a session less than a year ago and you were not doing, you had a lot of work to work. work through, and we all do. And I'm like, if I ain't completely healed from all my stuff, honey, I know you ain't. So,
Right.
and then I remember she had, and I think I commented on one of her posts, and then she commented back that I was, that I had a lot of entities around me and I needed to be cleansed. And so I told her, I said, you know what? If I do have a lot of entities around me, they'll be working for me very soon, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how I work with, entities and other, spirits and things like that. I'm not fearful of them. I don't need to banish them. They just join my team. So after that, I think she had started posting some more stuff, and it was just way like off the rails. And so I decided to just unfollow her, because I was just like, yo, I can't like look at this stuff anymore. This girl is just clearly out of it. And I think I might have messaged her one time, and I said, listen, I think that you probably need to really look into getting some professional mental help. We've worked together before, but it seems like things are kind of going a little left.
Mm-hmm.
And she never responded back to me. So uh when I heard about what happened, it broke my heart, first of all, because I didn't know the baby at all, but I remember during our time session, that she was talking about trying to get her child back, and all of these things, and the stuff that she was working on and trying to do to improve herself, to make sure that her baby had a better life. And I think the father at that time had the child. So it just broke my heart to hear that this had happened to this innocent child, especially on the basis of her believing that this was what was it, like 100-year-old demon inside of him or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so looking back on how she was spiraling out, and this was like what was that, 2022 that happened? We had
Mm-hmm.
just graduated from the mystical, what's the name of it? The magical mystic
Apprenticeship.
apprenticeship. Yes,
Yeah.
excuse me. I don't know how I
No.
blanked out for a moment.
Yeah.
We had just graduated in 2021, May of 2021, from the magical mystic apprenticeship together. We were in the same class. And she was there, all of that good stuff or whatever. We were supposed to like go out, me, her, and another one of the apprentices were supposed to go out. I didn't make it out,
Mm-hmm.
and probably for good reason. Like, and for some reason, I
Mm-hmm.
missed their call, or they didn't call me, or whatever. We were supposed to go to a strip club or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I think about it, I'm like, good. That was, that's when rejection is spiritual protection.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
feeling I was kind of feeling away, like, damn, why they ain't call me, but at the same time, now that I look back on everything, I see why. So, um, after hearing about what happened, it really did occur to me, like, she had no business practicing magic. She just didn't. She had no
Mm-hmm.
business doing it, not without the care of a licensed mental health professional, a therapist, a psychotherapist, or whatever. She needed to heal a lot of deep emotional wounds that she had from, things that she had gone through, abuse and things like that, in her family. I think her and her mom had issues with each other. In fact, they had it was a very strained relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Her and the father of her child had a strained relationship. And she was just, her life was just, very shaky. It was not stable at all. Her physical life was not stable. And also her mental health was unstable as well. So she had absolutely no business being in this apprenticeship.
Right.
Absolutely no business practicing deep magic, and definitely not working with as many spirits entities that we were working with during that apprenticeship. And that's a whole full year of you having what they call walkthroughs and spirits riding
Mm-hmm.
you. And if you don't properly, don't really know how to properly detach from those, and I'm gonna be honest with anybody out there, like, it's not that you can't detach from them, and it's not that you can't cleanse and purge yourself of any type of entity that you have allowed to merge with you or take possession of you. You can. It's just a lot. You have to do a lot of things to
Mm-hmm.
fully disconnect from that. And to be honest with you, that was not fully explained or given to us under the tutelage of the leader of that group. Okay, that was
Right.
never, you know what I mean.
Right.
Now, those of us who didn't have um extreme backlash from that, either you are protected, your mind is, a steel trap, pretty much, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or you on your own tapping into your own higher awareness was led to fully spiritually disconnect and cleanse yourself of whatever entities might have been merged with your energy. But Dejaune didn't have that. She didn't have that. Clearly, she didn't
Yeah.
have that. So it is dangerous to play around with that kind of stuff if you're not under the right supervision, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have the right teacher, um, and if you are dealing with any kind of mental unwellness or instability, it is just not a good recipe for that. So that's my long, uh, my long way of
No.
saying,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she definitely, she should not have been dealing with that. The working, dealing in that particular spirituality, um, especially when you're working with demons. You're working with all kinds of different entities, gods and goddesses from different cultures and different backgrounds that do require a certain way of you tapping into their energy, by the way, not just you
Right.
setting out water and giving them, different foods and stuff like that. Some of these entities, you really have to, it takes time for you to fully connect with them. Some of them you have no business connecting with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have a particular way that you need to tap in. They have different ends, as they call them, different songs or mantras that you need to say before you can really reach them. So most of the time you're not even certain that that's the spirit or the entity that you've tapped into. You might have tapped into
Right.
something completely different, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a huge miscarriage of guidance when it comes to that, in my opinion. Now I'm not blaming the person who's in charge, who was leading that group. I'm not blaming her 100%. Absolutely not. However, as a person who myself, I'm also a spiritual teacher. I do have students and things like that that are learning with me. Um, there's a certain responsibility that you have. First of all, you need to filter out the people that you work with, first and foremost. You need to do consultations with them one on one to find out if they make a good candidate. Are they mentally well enough to do this type of work?
I agree. Yeah.
That was not
That's
done. Not when I
yeah.
was an apprentice, not at all. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when you're practicing magic on that level, high magic, and dealing with these ancient entities and tapping into
right.
them and having these different walkthroughs. There should be a very thorough vetting process when you
Mhm.
are accepting students and mentees. I totally agree. I feel
Absolutely.
like it's egregious and it's very irresponsible not to.